So who am I? I was born and raised in Haiti. I came to the United States when I was 15. My childhood was I was raised in a wealthy family, so there's no issue there. My childhood was one where, although we were financially okay, um, I still had many challenges. I was one of six children, and one of the things I did is I felt unseen, right? And my a lot of my life has been a struggle to be seen as a woman of color, to be seen as a woman, to be seen as a person. So, growing up with six children, went to school. Nothing was really special about me, right? As a child, on the exterior anyway. I didn't have the standards of beauty as a child that people looked for. Um, I didn't have it. There was nothing remarkable about me on the outside, on the exterior. So one thing that I wanted to be remarkable, right? I wanted to be noticed. I wanted to be seen. I didn't. I felt invisible, and so that was part of my drive: being seen, making a difference, being heard. So I always did well in school, and mostly taught myself many things. Always was number one, number two in class. Excelled at speaking French, and that brought many opportunities. Right. So at the age of 15, we our life as a family was changed. My father, who was always very ill, um, became even more sick, right? And we also lost my eldest sibling, who was assassinated. So we decided to leave Haiti. My mother decided to leave Haiti, and we came here. And it wasn't fully planned. So that came with its own challenges, right? Immigration challenges. Our family was separated. Half of my family went to the Dominican Republic and ended up in Mexico, and we were separated for 20 years. My father ended up passing away. So we really came with all the problems, right? From a life of financial stability, a life of, really just the daily being a child, nothing remarkable about my childhood, to coming to a new country, not speaking the language. Soon thereafter, losing my father, trying to learn English, realizing that our family was never going to be complete again. My siblings, my two elder siblings, went to Mexico, ended up in Mexico and stayed there for 20 years. The third sibling, my brother, ended up, he left before us, and he was in another state. So it was really myself and my little brother and my grieving mother, right? So we went through a lot. We went through a lot. I was a family translator. I translated for my mother. I took her to her medical appointment as I was struggling to learn English myself. I came into the in 10th grade. Um, Really just becoming parentified, right? Becoming the parent in a new country as my mother was grieving. My mother is a strong woman, so I took from her, but I really took on a lot of responsibility from a childhood that was pretty much sheltered to coming to the U.S. and realizing that there is no shelter. My father has passed away. Our family is broken. My mother's grieving. We are now in a very low income. My mother became a home health aide. I remember her earning $100 a week. Now she's now has five children, supporting us on $100 a week, working day and night. There were many less regulations at the time in these home health aide positions, immigration issues. So I had to find a way, right? I had to find a way to survive. So I relied on my, the grit that I had learned from my father. My father was an intellectual. Um, his grit, my mother's grit, and the intellect of my father, those were qualities that I saw them, that they demonstrated without even telling us. They demonstrated those characteristics. So I ended up going to college on a full scholarship, on a French scholarship. I continued to do well in school despite not speaking English. So I went through 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. About 11th grade, I had really good grades. I really just wanted to be seen, to be heard, to mean something to the world, to do something extraordinary. So 11th grade, did well on the SATs, mostly the language portion. And then in 12th grade, my French teachers, I still had the French language that I had spent 15 years learning in Haiti, my native language. Said, hey, there's a scholarship this weekend. There's a scholarship test this weekend at Manhattan College in the Bronx. I didn't know how to get to the Bronx. We were living in Long Island. And she said, do you want to take it? And we will pay for the fees. The school will pay for the fees for the test because we didn't have the money. At that point, I didn't think I could even go to college because my mother was a single parent. We had difficulty getting selling what we had in Haiti because we had left overnight. So we basically, I couldn't get to college unless it was by my own strength. So I ended up taking the test that weekend. I didn't know where I was going with these two angels, two mentors. They registered me for the test. I ended up going in, and a couple of days later, I got a call. I received a call from the head of the Modern Foreign Language Department, who said, "Hey, you really did well on this foreign language test. We would like to offer you a scholarship to come to Manhattan College." And I said, how much? I was 17, right? Talking this way to an adult. I said, how much? And he said to me, I don't know, 20 grand or something. And I said, well, I can't afford the other half. And he said, I'll call you back, Dr. Rodriguez. He was the head of the Modern Foreign Language Department. He says, I'll call you right back. I'll call you back soon. So a few days later, he called back. He says, we have the other half. So that's how my life changed. I ended up going to to college on a full scholarship, 4 years. And while I was there, I worked really hard. I studied. I worked really hard. I challenged myself. And to that point, I only challenged myself intellectually. I decided in in my junior year of college to start running track, right? With the best of the best. So because I never stopped challenging myself, and to this day, I haven't stopped. So I ended up running track for a few months because nothing was above me. Nothing was too hard for me. So I ran with track stars who had been running for, 10 years, right? And here I am, who decided I'm going to pick up running. And not only am I going to pick up running, I'm going to pick up running and do it competitively, right? Unheard of. So of course I got hurt, but I still run to this day. So it wasn't for naught, right? So about my junior year of college, another mentor approached me and said, you're really doing good in this class. Would you like, at that point I was commuting from Long Island to the Bronx, and it was about a 2-hour commute. It was a very, very tiring commute, and it really didn't allow me to have a campus life as a college student, right? So I would finish school at 5 or 6 and then have to trek back to Long Island. And so my professor said, hey, I really think you would do well in this position as a resident assistant. So I applied, and I received a grant to become a resident assistant. So now I had a full scholarship, and I was living in school on a scholarship, which paid for books, which paid for a room and board. So really working hard really paid off. Just really working hard, keeping my head down, not feeling afraid of any challenges, and just putting my foot out there. So I finished college, and I ended up I started working, and still one of my professors there. It's really the story of mentors, right? When you put your best foot forward, people will come in your path. Angels, mentors will show up in your path and guide you the right way. So it's really, if you do the best that you can, right, doors will open miraculously, really. One of my mentors in college said to me, I called her about a year after I finished college. I was working a job and was unhappy. And she said, you should really apply to law school. There's this great law school. It's called CUNY Law School. And of course, it's a city school. I think it was $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, which I could afford. I was waitressing by waitressing. So I applied to CUNY Law School. I was accepted, and I actually was on a wait list. It was really a last minute endeavor. And I think the weekend before law school started, right, 2003, I received a call saying, hey, You are now off the wait list. Are you still interested in becoming in coming to this law school? And I said yes. When I got on the bus, many buses, and came to pay my tuition, and that's how I got to law school. Really like a series, like serendipity, a series of events, a series of occurrences that when you work hard, things will just come together. So went to law school, did well, made great friends. Really was fulfilling my potential to really, shape the world, do something different, be remarkable. Um, I finished law school, ended up going to get my MBA at Baruch College. Really hard, really challenging myself more. It's an MBA in taxation. Um, so I'm a few credits away from being actually being an accountant as well. So I ended up, when I finished my MBA degree, I started working as an attorney, which was, very challenging. And it's really a day-to-day of meeting challenges, putting your best foot forward, doing the work, keeping your head down, believing in yourself. I've worked at many positions at different law firms, really long hours, really being confident and trusting yourself, trusting that you are good enough, whatever you look like, whether or not you fit in, whether or not, anyone around you believes that you can do it, you can do it. And you can do it well, and you can do it better. That I've learned, right? So I've worked as an attorney for about 10 years, and after my last position, I decided to open my law firm. And where else would I open it? But, because challenges are my thing, right? I opened it in Manhattan, in Midtown, which is unheard of, as a young woman of color. And here we are about 2 years later, doing well. We did well year one. It's really, and it is it's unheard of, but we're here with employees, with staff. Our clients love us. So as a woman, it's unheard of to own it's rare to own a law firm. As a woman of color, it's even rarer. So here we are, we're doing it, and we're forging forward.
In looking back at that, and I guess the one true thing that kept you the same all the way through to accomplish your goals and whatever it was that whole idea and desire to accept the challenges,
yes,
and find challenges, right? Like you decided that I'm just gonna find whatever challenge let me go run track. I've never run it before, but I'm gonna be competitive track runner, right? And do that. So what I want to go back to Haiti. I want to go back to when your family at 15 got split up.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst in that?
Correct. No, it's a long story. So my eldest brother was assassinated overnight. So
why was he assassinated?
So Haiti has a lot of political conflict, right? Mm-hmm. No one will really know it was undeserved, but they entered his home and assassinated him in front of his wife and children. So we knew that we could have been next. So we fled.
So you fled the country overnight then?
Correct. Yeah, literally. And we came. We thought it was just me and my brother. My parents stayed behind because it was really like get the children settled. My oldest brother and older sister at that point, they couldn't get to Mexico. It was really, where do we go? Is it Brazil? Where do they go? Right. So it was really my mother staying behind with my ailing father, and then send the youngest. So we were sent here. I was 15. My brother was 12. We got on that plane, and I remember the airline folks saying, "Where are your parents?" And I was holding on to my little brother like really tight, and we were told what to say. Just say, "Hey, they're right behind us." Try to play it cool, and somebody will meet you at the airport. So someone met us at the airport. But 15 and 12 just getting on that plane and never returning. And my mother came about a year later.
So you and your little brother went to the United States by yourself at 15 and 12.
Yes.
without your mom, and she came a year later. Where did you go when you got there?
So I actually went to this woman who actually shaped my life. She was a powerhouse. She was a life force. I say was because she ended up dying young of a brain aneurysm. My aunt, my mother's cousin, we ended up staying with her. She was an absolute powerhouse. I still think about her some days when I struggle. I think about, my aunt, and I say, she worked day and night. She broke the mold. She learned to drive in her late 40s. She just broke the mold. Um, she just worked nonstop. She had no boundaries.
Right.
She had no boundaries. So she took us in her home, and she kept telling me, you gotta, you gotta. There's a saying in Creole, Mary Saint you, meaning gird your loins. So she would tell me, you need to gird your loins. You need to gird your loins, right? So, she was an absolute. She was 110 pounds, probably. Soaked in wet. She was a powerhouse. She had I think 3 or 4 or 5 children. And she worked as a nurse. She worked long hours. She maintained her home. She was just a powerhouse. I could never measure to who she was. So when I came here, that was my first example of living in America and really making it work.
And how difficult was it to go to school and learn the language? Did you find
very, very? I remember getting to of course, of all things, I go into Model UN and I don't even speak English, which is a speaking where you actually speak in front of people. So I ended up joining Model UN and I didn't speak English. So and I was making speeches in front of people and wondering, what did I just say? Is that the right thing? And I remember a friend of mine, I used to have trouble with up or down. So I would say, the room cracked down. I made a joke and the room cracked down, and they would say, no, cracked up, like not cracked down. So,
right.
So the ups and downs were always my struggle, just weird expressions, right? I ended up going into AP calculus, AP biology, really just, I remember sitting there thinking, I have to do this, right? I wanted to get into a good college, really got into the talented and gifted program. Mm-hmm.
Where did that you didn't speak any English?
Nope.
You came at 15. You were, you went into grade 10. So where, and how did you learn it so fast? Because you ultimately then said you did really well on your SATs. You probably did better on your SATs than I did, and I speak English.
Well, my father was an intellectual. A thorough intellectual. He read all the time. I remember him. He was what you call in Haiti a notary, which had many, many lawyer responsibilities. Right. He was a Renaissance man. He read and he read, and I still have some of his books after he passed away. Really, really, old books. So, I because I spoke French and because I learned French and I would say well and I read it, words would make sense to me. Some words didn't, but most words I could kind of put together. This probably means this because it's so close to the French. So it's really using French. And the time I was most comfortable was in French class because then I could lead, right? And folks would say, would you tutor me? Can you tutor me? Because my guidance counselor also played a big role. She said, you need to be, so I had about 2 French classes, right? Because that was 2 periods of the week or of the day where I could actually be understood. Mm-hmm. But the language skills, which is very important. Your language skills, your communication skills will really open doors. Being able to say, because people determine how smart you are by how you speak, how you own the room, your vocabulary. So those things really, just having a vocabulary, French is still the love of my life, really speaking mm-hmm. French, reading it. So I would say your vocabulary will really open doors for you. I got close to a perfect score on the verbal because God. I spoke French, right? So correct. So math is a different story, right? But
I understand, like the root words and things.
Correct. Mm. Correct.
I understand. So did you find other young people who were immigrants as well, who spoke other languages in your school? I'm imagining your school is probably quite large, that were just coming in and not necessarily be able to speak.
Correct, I did, but I was always I was often an outcast, right? So I don't know that I felt clearly there was connection there. A lot of there was It's a big Haitian population. It's in Elmont, New York, so
Mhm.
probably more now. But in Elmont has always been a melting pot. So a big Indian population, a big Haitian population, a big Caribbean population. So yes, we had it all. That was the school where people came to when they got here. I don't know that. Go ahead. Mhm.
Did most young people who were immigrants and didn't speak the language, perhaps maybe you know or don't know, did they have the success that you had in your school?
I'm sure. I'm sure. I keep in touch with a lot of them. I keep in touch with a lot of them, and it really, I would say, depended on the drive. I wouldn't say
Mhm.
everyone, but
Right.
I keep in touch with a lot of them, and they're doing well. Absolutely.
It's very interesting because it's a whole different perspective because I was in a school district where young people, there was a huge immigrant population, and it was high school, and they were first year students, and some of them were able to do okay, but a lot of them, at the end of the school year when they're taking an exam with in biology or whatever with a dictionary, it was kind of crazy in that sense that they really wouldn't be able to do that. So I find it really interesting. I guess it's mindset and the will and the drive to do that, and you definitely had the will and the drive to do that. But
Correct.
also I think the courage, like you had the courage behind you to take on those different challenges that you were confronted with. That was
Correct. I think it's really, I mean, I would say my aunt, right, is really, and my mother, right, really, really, there's this another expression in Creole that says potomita, a femme potomita, which is a woman who is the center, who keeps it together, right? So my mother will say, potomita means I don't know, something that keeps the whole foundation together. So there are a lot of sayings that really give you courage, and when you hear them, it's really folkloric. But when you hear them, you just feel that extra strength because you are from Potomita. You are that person. So if I speak to my mother, she'll say, or a friend who's Haitian, you hear those words, and you see your grandmother, and then you feel that extra strength in your back, right? Where you say, I'm not going out like that, right?
Right, exactly. No, I think it's wonderful, and I think if anything that I learned today, and what can be shared with younger people is, and even with adults, it's that drive, it's that determination, it's the desire to want what you really want, and the perseverance, because you can make as many excuses as you want to. However, you again are just one of the another on one of the story of the success that comes out of all of those characteristics,
Absolutely.
right? And
Absolutely.
so whether it be whether you, or whether it's Roberto that was just on before you, or Maria on before that, who's from the Dominican Republic, or all of the
Correct.
people that have taken a part of this, it just goes to show that with young people, and showing them it doesn't matter their circumstance today,
Correct.
it's the drive and the determination to say, you know what, this is not going to define me, this is
Correct.
not going to be who I'm going to be the rest of my life. I have the opportunity to get out. It might not be
Correct.
easy, but how much do I want it?
Correct.
And like with you didn't think you were going to be able to go to college. You didn't think
Absolutely.
so. And then all of a sudden, they offered you a half a scholarship, and then they came back with a full scholarship. And, if you weren't open to that, then that opportunity wouldn't have come to you. So I
Correct.
love that. I love what you stand for, and I love the fact that you decided that I'm just gonna open a law firm in the middle of in Midtown Manhattan. Like, that's great.
I would say that, don't let anyone define you, right? Most people don't know what they're doing. That's something I've learned, whatever age, right? You just gotta, everyone's trying something out, looking confident, not
Mm-hmm.
letting other people define you. That's a big deal because, if anyone else on the panel did, then we wouldn't be here, right? And don't let anyone tell you what you can and cannot do. Really keep your head in the books, reading is huge. Reading your vocabulary, keeping in touch, keeping up with the news, really just listening to the news, right?
Mm-hmm.
To see how people speak, people's vocabulary, how people get their thoughts and ideas out. Because most of the time, as you present yourself in a job interview in places, what people see, they see your appearance, but the next thing is, how do you speak?
Mm-hmm.
What do you say? How do you talk? And that will have people decide within minutes, seconds, whether they think you're smart and worthy, right? It's not white, but reading is, fundamental, right? Right? Whether you're smart, and it's not fair, but reading in whatever language, just continuing, because what I say to myself is, every thought I've had has already been written about and has already been spoken about. So podcast, books, whatever you're feeling, or dealing with, somebody wrote about it. It's there. So we're creating the wheel, right? Read a lot. Read
Absolutely.
fiction, read nonfiction, listen to the news, just be exposed, travel.